Hi, my name is Janice Switlo. It's come to my attention, for instance, on the Facebook page of Del Riley, that he disagrees, to put it mildly, with my explanation of what Section 35, and by extension then UNDRIP, United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, what it's all about. People who are trying to decide whose opinion to consider on how to weigh this, I ask you to think about this. Del Riley is not coming across as an elder. He's coming across as, yes, a senior person who's had political experience. You know, he's a product of residential school system, and he used to head up the lobby group that is now called the Assembly of First Nations. Now, why am I saying this? And people might feel offended by this, but it's important to understand that it's not a matter of how someone looks. It's the foundation and what set of laws that you're relying upon. Now, I've been, of course, trained extensively in Canadian law and international law, but more importantly, and why I'm able to speak to these matters, are that I was trained in Indigenous law and specifically asked in ceremony to carry certain responsibilities, to share the knowledge that some of these elders, these true teachers, couldn't find people of their own who were ready to carry that knowledge and know how to deal with it, and the gifts, if you will, that come with that, in being able to access knowledge in new ways. And I'll talk about that in another episode. But what tips me off? Two aspects. One, he's very proud of his role. He says he created Section 35. It came about all because of him. It was his doing, and he's literally bragging about that and touring and giving lectures about this wonderful role and this wonderful thing he created. Elders practice humility. They're not boastful, they don't brag, they don't express and show such pride. They serve their people and they express their role, whether they're sharing information or assisting personally individuals. They fulfill their responsibility to their people in a very humble way. Being humble is critical because the kind of power that vests in reliance in using Indigenous law is incredible. And if a person starts to think it's about them, the kinds of persuasiveness, the effects and responses that can happen as a result of tapping in and relying and using Indigenous law in a true way, can change a person. So this being humble is a very severe warning, and it's critical, and it's how you can identify true elders. Secondly, he continues to think it was okay to do a side deal with Jean Chrétien. Now, he didn't say, oh, I took it back to the chiefs, I brought it back to the people, we discussed the offer. No, he says in a back room, Chrétien took him aside and he did the deal right then and there. Look at what's wrong with that picture, that process. That is not, emphatically not, how Indigenous nationals exercising and protecting and using Indigenous law, their own laws, they don't act that way. He would have said instead, okay, well, can you confirm that for me in writing? Usually advisable. But even if not, he would definitely say, I need to take this back. At the very least, take it back to the lobby group. But from everything he has shared and repeated, that's not the case. He's very proud that he made the deal with Chrétien. There's something very wrong with that. And that's the distinction. People should not be looking at who to follow or who presents the best, who can convince you they have the best way to proceed. That's a very Western approach. An Indigenous approach is bringing those circles together, starting to meet, and it takes, yes, it takes a lot longer, but you know what? It's far more effective. It's not a dictatorship. It's not something that someone can run around and say, look at what I did. In fact, the key people in putting together an actual solution, something that really works and protects for the people, if it's working well, they'll be forgotten, because it's not about them. It's about the people. It's about the children and next generations. It's not about, look at what I did. Now, sure, when you're trying to decide who to bring into your circle, it's important to know, what have these people been part of? What have they done? How have they conducted themselves? How do they speak? What do they know? Where did they get their knowledge from? What's their foundation? And why are they doing this? What motivates them? Who's their family? You know, I can tell very quickly when someone doesn't properly introduce themselves to me and explain who they are, where they're from, and who their family ties are, and how it is they came to know of me, and how to, more importantly, how to contact me, because sometimes that's not easy. So I caution you that not every old person is actually an elder. Now, I've been fortunate. I've met actual elders. That generation is gone now, quite frankly. And it's very difficult for young people who know they need to deal with the elders. They need that source of information. How do they discern who's who? Those are a couple of things to look at. Are they, are they being humble, or are they bragging? Are they taking credit, or are they deferring to their nation as a whole? What motivates their actions? Are they in the spotlight for what reason? Now, having said that, there was a very good speech that Del Riley did when the Union of Ontario Indians refused to meet with the group of Anishinaabe who were there to discuss the Anishinaabe Nation Governance Agreement that's being voted on this month and later on. And I commend him for his explanation as to what the Union of Ontario Indians was supposed to be, how they started out. That's really good knowledge. That's the politics. And it's important to have that knowledge. But when it comes to some other things, while I appreciate he may have wanted, and a lot of people will look at things and see them as they want to see them, it's critical to open one's eyes and ears to say, when someone's warning, when someone's saying, look, you are too close to it, you haven't looked at it. Here's someone like myself who spent 30 years looking at it, and furthermore was in at the war tables, if you will, as a Department of Justice lawyer. So this is intended not to criticize. This is intended to warn that in these stages of transition, where governance is going to be sorted out, when new leaders, if you will, are going to come to the foreground. Again, it's not a matter of who to follow and whose words to embrace completely, but rather how the circles come together, how that information is brought in, and how each person whose information is brought in then respects what's being said. And that's allowed to percolate and ferment and come up and combine, so that people are brought closer together, and together they will learn more. But things are not as they seem. The Canadian governments have worked intensely to mislead, outright lied, and have primed people, and that's an episode I keep saying is coming, and it definitely is in this group of filming sessions. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.